And on the phone right now, we got to say hi to an old friend. We haven't talked to him in a while. It's Henry Rollins. Henry.
How you doing, man?
Henry.
What's going on today, buddy?
Not much. It's 6 in the morning where I am.
Oh, you're in L.A., obviously, no?
Yeah.
Are you at your apartment or house?
Not at the office.
Oh, because I asked that because I think I remember last time we talked to you that you don't really have a place of residence, really.
Yeah, I do. I'm just not around much.
It's kind of like a place just to put your stuff on, and as you travel the world, right?
Yeah. I mean, I try and stay out as much as possible. I just got back from Europe, and I'm heading off to Russia in about 10 days.
What are you going to do in Russia?
I'm going to go into Siberia, and I'm going to go on the Trans Siberian Rail, which is the 6,000-mile train ride.
Why are you doing that?
I just think it'd be interesting, and might make for some interesting writing. And seeing Siberia at the coldest part of the year might be, something that might be memorable. It might be a total drag. I don't know.
How long of a trip is it?
It's a week.
Okay, a week.
And they do this regularly, or?
Yeah, that thing runs all year. Yeah, and there's 3 different rail systems. There's the Trans-Siberian, Trans-Mongolian, and something else. But this is the big one, so I figured. I was in Sweden the other night, and I said, now's the time. So I researched it, called up the travel agent, and who I wear out on a regular basis for these ideas, and she got on it.
That isn't one of those things where people kind of have made it almost touristy. Is it still like pretty harsh? What kind of travel? I don't know.
Well, there's either 2 to a car or 4 to a car. A train car. So you just decide how many people you want to travel with, and the train lets you off, every few hours for a while to go check out a different town. And I know a girl who years ago did it, said it was really amazing. So it got me really curious.
Well, what are you going to see in these towns?
Well, the locals and probably a lot of snow and ice.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, it sounds kind of interesting, but you're going to be looking out the window seeing the exact same thing for a week straight, no?
Yeah, but so do you on your way to work.
That's true.
You got me.
Well, no, and so do I when I'm here. So, what I'm saying is that's why I like to get out and see a different, just 9 to 5. So
it's funny. A friend of mine went to Russia one time, and we were talking about it, and he said that some places are nice, but some places have like real poverty. And I'm like, did you notice that? And he's like, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, Russia. I've been there 4 times. Russia has a lot of problems.
Yeah.
The people are fantastic, and Stalin really did it, and Stalin and communism really messed that country up. If you didn't like communism, you come out of Russia going like, yep, definitely a bad idea.
Yeah.
But why would you live in that area now that Russia's trying to move forward into the?
Well, there's opportunity if you have the keys to the kingdom. A lot of tough guys, a lot of criminal types made a lot of money when the wall came down, just because there's a lot of military people willing to sell pretty much anything. Mm-hmm. And people were buying everything from submarines to every weapon known to man. And that's a lot of weapons that we're getting hit by in Iraq are Russian-made, Kalashnikovs. When I was in Iraq a few months ago, I saw this newly captured cache of weapons that they pulled off out of Syria, I guess, or they came over the Syrian border, and it's all brand new Russian gear, like still packed in grease.
Wow.
I know a guy he served over in Iraq. He was over in, actually, I think in Baghdad and in Fallujah. And he came back, and I'm like, well, I mean, how was it? And he's like, it was really dangerous. And I'm like, it was? And he's like, you bet.
Yeah, I was there in May, and I was in a mortar attack at one base, which was, that's a, pretty dramatic deal.
Oh, you went over there?
Yeah, I do a trip for the USO every 3 months, and been to Afghanistan a couple of times, Kyrgyzstan a couple of times, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Iraq, Kuwait, Honduras, places like that.
What's your take on the whole thing?
Well, my take is our men and women in the military are the best in the world, and I'm devoted to them. I think Iraq, the president's saying one thing, but they're actually going after something else. It's not really spreading freedom as much as it's putting in a roadblock against what they think is the rising Arab unified world or something.
Is that a bad thing in your opinion?
It's a bad thing when you kind of cram democracy down someone's throat.
Right.
It's a very bad thing when 1,500 of my countrymen come back dead and thousands and thousands come back, legs gone, faces gone, and I'll be visiting some of them on February 12th at Walter Reed Army Hospital. So, in my opinion, the freedom of all of Iraq is not worth a scraped knee of an American soldier.
I gotta agree with you there.
Yeah, I agree too.
I gotta agree with you on that one.
I have a lot of problems about this conflict.
I think if they were, before we even gave them a second thought, I think if the people really wanted freedom and were rising up and making a concerted effort amongst themselves to be free and asked for the United States' assistance, I think that's a different story.
My thoughts exactly.
But I think
if
they
you
were
weren't man enough to take the guy out, then maybe you just like it that way.
There you go. And if they needed help to attain this freedom that they all dreamt about, then that's a different story. But I think the fact is they were sheep being led by a dictator with an iron fist that, perhaps they didn't really want freedom. So why should we risk American lives to give them something they don't even understand?
I'm all into freedom and democracy, and no one likes Saddam Hussein. I mean, he's a creep. But that being said, I just see all these people coming home in bags. Yeah. And that's just not worth it to me. Especially when you meet these guys. They're just, they're just people like you and me with this completely surreal job. I mean, their 9 to 5 over there, it's just not, you're not able to believe what they go through.
Nope. That's why they're so screwed up when they get back, too, having to deal with that. Forget about it.
Jay wanted to ask
that Siberian thing like the Bipolar Express, that movie?
The Bipolar Express? Well, it'll be bipolar when I get on it, my friend.
Okay, I just had to break that up. All right.
So, Henry, one other thing about Iraq, is it as crazy as they're showing it is on the news?
Yeah. I mean, as soon as the sun goes down, you just hear gunfire all night, and wherever you go, you're in an armor-plated Humvee surrounded by armed men, and nowhere's really safe. The green zone isn't safe. I mean, you're kind of up for grabs wherever you are there, and the tension is pretty grim. I mean, people are dead serious. Like when you're out moving around, there's no joking around.
Yeah.
Like when you're in a Black Hawk, you're followed by a guard Black Hawk. I mean, because these guys are getting shot at. They're getting mortared all the time. There's a lot of the improvised explosive devices are very effective. And the Kevlar vests, the ceramic plated body armor is really effective, but the arms keep coming off. That's our problem. The guts remain intact, but the arms go flying into the air. So it's a mess.
And what about the people? Are they do they feel safer? Are you seeing that or no? Or are they pretty
scared too?
They
wouldn't let me near anybody. I'll tell you what, though. When I was flying up from Kuwait, I was up front of the C-130 with the pilots, and they said, "See all those lights down there?" I said, "Yeah." And they said none of that was happening when we got here. So like we built all of that. There's apparently a huge percent more electricity in Iraq than before we were there. It doesn't mean that's our job to go turn on the lights for people, but it just shows you that when America, we're the first people you want to have help you because we get it done. And I've seen a lot of humanitarian aid in every one of these places I've been to, in Afghanistan and even in Honduras when I was there last summer.
What do you got going? What's this Shock and Awe DVD thing you got?
It comes out like any minute now. It's from last year's tour. Shot it in Seattle on show 51 of the tour, and it's just a document of last year's tour. It's just me on stage on my own, talking, telling stories about where I just been, and those shows I've been doing for about 22 years. And now, once a tour, we make a DVD now.
See, that's why he goes to these places. He gets all this info. He goes on stage and talks about it.
Yeah, it's you're more spoken word, right? Although there's definitely a lot of comedy in what you do.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot of funny stuff. I mean,
you don't want to commit to the comedy thing officially, or what?
What, like as a stand-up?
Yeah, why not?
And have to tell dog jokes and stupid non sequiturs, but but I like my wife though, and all that kind of corny crap.
No. You don't have to be a bad stand-up. You could just tell. You could be a good stand-up. Richard Pryor didn't exactly do dog jokes and bad non sequiturs. He also spoke the truth and talked about his life, and he did stand-up.
Yeah, Bill Hicks had a point of view with his comedy. Whether you agree or disagree,
and they're great. But and I've been checking out Richard Pryor when you guys were like -8 years old, but. Those guys are heroes to me. I just don't want to be in a comedy club, being on the comedy circuit, and when I want to talk about homophobia or something that's serious and have some guy throw his drink at me.
Well, you don't worry about the reaction, though. You got
an ear, so that's the problem there.
If you're talking about it, there's definitely a risk in a comedy club, because you also have to take what it is and express it and somehow find humor in the situation. And,
absolutely. I respect comics. If someone said, go do an hour at a comedy club tonight, I'd be terrified.
And I was a homophobic child, and in kindergarten I wouldn't even skip to my loo.
And how much do you make a week doing stand-up?
Not much.
Well, we have Jay London
working at it, because it sounds like it's working for you. I mean, if that's if you walk on stage and that's your first line, I think you're going to be eating tuna casserole for a long time. Well, you still live with Mom, or are you moving out now? Are you thinking about it?
Actually, we have Jay London in studio. He was on Last Comic Standing. Very funny comic, actually. He's playing Caroline's this weekend. And then we got Jim Norton, who does the radio show with us, who's very funny.
Last Comic, was that Comedy Central?
Last Comic Standing was on
NBC.
NBC.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Well, you've been all over the world. Where's your favorite place to go?
Well, besides America, I like Australia.
Why Australia?
Just amazing country. People are very friendly. It's very beautiful. Food's good. The women are beautiful. It's very clean. Takes a while to get there.
Aren't they a little uptight about content?
Cool once you get off the plane.
Aren't they a little uptight about content? They seem to be a bit more uptight than Americans as far as, like, content is concerned.
Well, there's elements of Australia that are very conservative, like here or anywhere else, but the people are pretty fun-loving as far. I've been there 26 times, and I don't know, they like the hard rock, and they come to the talking shows, and they seem to be pretty straight-up people.
Yeah. Advice to the average man: if they could only take one trip, where would you suggest they go?
Gee.
For like kind of a fun vacation. I mean, obviously not the Caribbean. Maybe somewhere where you would never think to go.
Get an adventure.
Yeah, maybe an adventure vacation.
Egypt is pretty cool as far as like some jaw-dropping stuff to see. As far as being a tourist. Everywhere you look, it's kind of mind-blowing.
I wanted to go to Egypt, but then they were saying that it's very, very dangerous now. Ever since 2000, ever since
were hacked up at that one tourist site. I forget where that was. I tried to go right after that, but my manager talked me out of it. But wherever you go now, like when you're at the Valley of the Kings or the Giza pyramids, there is a bunch of young men with Uzis guarding you, because that is their business is tourism. So you're very protected.
Okay.
What was there was one spoken word thing you did I caught part of. What was the part where you were talking about something about being like vomiting and being like drunk and sick, puking in the toilet or something like that? It's been a while and I honestly don't remember it.
No, I've been drunk about 3 times in my life. I probably threw up when I was 17 from alcohol, but I was kind of like the 3 Michelob, I don't like it anymore kind of guy, so I don't know if I got any puking drunk.
Wasn't it? No, maybe it was you were sick there. I remember something in one of your spoken word things about being sick and being wrapped around a toilet. I
was probably, at one point, I probably, usually about once a year, my body kind of gives out, and I just shake, rattle, and roll for about 24 hours and puke and sweat. And that was in Sweden a couple of years ago where I told the story about the article I read in the newspaper about a man who sued Starbucks because he apparently crushed his penis inside one of the men's room toilets.
Yeah.
And I think that was bundled up in the same story as hugging the toilet in Sweden, because I think in my vomitous reverie I tried to actually recreate the accident to see how he could be litigious, and I couldn't do it. I guess I'm just not that well gifted.
Yeah, the toilet seat slipped to the side and squished his nutsack between the toilet and the seat.
That's classic.
I mean, you know what? You can go online and actually find a lot of the legal paperwork on that. Some girl sent it to me. It's pretty great.
That's good reading.
Well, it's interesting if you don't have a whole lot going on.
All right, let's say hi to Brad in Nashville. Brad, what's up?
How's it going, guys?
We got Henry Rollins on the phone.
Henry Rollins, you were listening to Richard Pryor when we were like minus 8 years old? How cool are you?
That nigger's crazy. Like, my mom gave it to me when I was like 8 or something, and my mom was pretty progressive. And I remember I went to go see that performance film. That was basically, where that album came from. And I remember walking out of there
Which one came from That Nigger's Crazy?
A lot of that stuff. Just a lot of the stuff from that Live at Sunset Strip. Just like that all that classic stuff. Where All American Nigger, That Nigger's Crazy. A lot of
Bicentennial Nigger, you mean?
Huh?
Bicentennial Nigger.
Bicentennial.
Not
Nigger.
All American Nigger. Yeah. Oh no, I know you're saying the Live in Concert, which was filmed in Long Beach, 1979, was taken from Wanted, which was That Nigger's Crazy was kind of 1971 in the Improv in New York City. He filmed something called Richard Pryor Live and Smoking. A lot of that material eventually made its way onto That Nigger's Crazy, but it actually, not the reverse was true. The CD, the tape came out years after it was actually filmed, but it came out better. It was actually better once it was on tape than it was in the original film, which bombed. It wasn't released until '81 by Blum Productions because Pryor was already a star by then.
Yeah. Well, I saw it in D.C. when I was in high school.
Henry, you know what just went on, right?
Huh?
You know what just went on. I think you like Jim Norton is probably the biggest Richard Pryor fan ever. And when you said that you were listening to Richard Pryor albums when we were -8 years old, I think it really got to him.
Oh, really? Did I insult the guy?
No, not at all. I felt it was a bit pretentious, but no, it wasn't insulting.
No, I'm just saying, I'm down with comics, respect comics. Lenny Bruce, I was listening to the records before I even understood what the hell he was talking about, and then I got older and I kind of started getting to it. But all that stuff, Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, these guys were huge to me. So I'm not, what I'm trying to say is I'm not in any way disrespecting comics or comedy just because I don't go and do a thing at the comedy club. It's these guys. You know, Lenny Bruce died for a lot of our constitutional rights, in my opinion. Yeah. And Bill Hicks was of the strength where such an early death seems to me, it almost smacks of conspiracy. He was that effective to me, where you can almost buy the conspiracy idea that someone just wanted to shut him up for good. So all I was saying is I respect these guys. If I rubbed you the wrong way, man, I'm really, well, I guess I rubbed you the wrong way.
No, it was only when I mentioned comedy, I asked stand up, and you're like, oh, should I do some like dog jokes? So it was kind of like I figured that was kind of a jab at comics, and then I mentioned Pryor.
Yeah,
like,
I just
okay.
I would hate to be put in that box where like 1, 2, 3 make them laugh. Like one time I had to do like a 5-minute thing on like I don't know Penn and Teller. They said go out there and do 5 minutes. I don't know what you're talking. I was terrified. I said, can I do an hour? You know, can I just be myself? And they went, no, come on, it's a show. Go out there. And, you know, those guys can do it. I did it, but it felt like I was a dog wearing a hat at a party. I just felt really canned and, you know, kind of put up there.
I really like the spoken word thing. I got a lot of your stuff, and I enjoy it.
Definitely. I mean, I just would rather not have the pressure of, you know, 7 seconds, bang, 7 seconds, bang. You know, I'd rather, because a lot of stories I tell, they're not funny. I'm
a big fan of storytelling in general. Like when Richard Pryor used to tell his stories, and Jim Brewer, he's been on our show a lot. I like his storytelling.
I like about Richard Pryor, Opie.
Huh?
What do you know about Pryor? Shut up.
Well, back in 19. No, I'm just a fan of the storytelling comics. You know, where it's
Yeah, the anecdotal stuff to me was always the best. Like all those old Warner Brothers records of Bill Cosby, like Revenge and all those. I got from my stepbrother. He gave them to me when I was like 6 or 7, and I thought Bill Cosby just made kids records. I thought they were just for, you know, like an afternoon special thing. And like that Revenge album, I think I had a freaking seizure when I first heard that.
Yeah.
It was like the funniest thing I'd ever heard in my life.
Cosby is a great comedian. Like I'm not a fan of his, but I do respect him as a comic, and I acknowledge how great he is. My only problem with Cosby is when you take, like you mentioned, Lenny or Pryor or Carlin. These guys express opinions and kind of speak through their work, and it kind of bugs me that Cosby doesn't do that.
Safe. You know, he did clean humor that could be on Carson or could be in, you know, at a bar mitzvah. But he had great mic technique, the way he would overload the diaphragm to make the voices go low. Right. And but then you hear what Lenny Bruce is doing at the same, you know, like when he was, you know, towards the end of his life, and it's just, you know, take the paint right off your car. You know, the truth this guy's dropping, like all the, you know, the recording Zappa made at Berkeley is just insane. All the Phil Spector stuff. I just got that box set that Wilner put together. I haven't had a chance to hear it yet.
My problem with Cosby is, like, again, it's like, now he comes out and says all this stuff, like, about the black community, which is fine, but it's like, now he comes out and he goes, well, I just want to say this. It's like, well, that's your job as a comedian for the last 35 years. You should have been saying it on stage as a comic. Why would you do one type of an act, which is supposed to be truthful and based on your perceptions, and yet now this is the way you really, you know what I mean? That's what kind of bugs me, is the inconsistency.
Yeah, well, I find him really uninteresting. I mean, he's became, like, to me, just a kind of a grouch.
Yeah.
To where I think his positions are just, like, kind of curmudgeonly and not moving. And other comics around him were taking chances. Like when he was doing all that early stuff, like, To Russell, My Brother Whom I Slept With, and all that stuff. To me, that's really safe comedy. Then you see Carlin just ripping out of the box with, Class Clown, AM, FM, Occupation Fool.
Yeah.
We're like, whoa. That was heavy stuff. I had those records like in 3rd and 4th grade, and I memorized them at one point.
Do you like, I'm a big Carlin fan. Like, a lot of people disagree with me on this one. I happen to love progressively what he's done more and more. He's kind of lost his mind in the last 10 years, but I love that.
Man. I can dig it.
Do you like him better in the 70s or now?
The one tour he did, You're All Infected, the one right after his wife died, he was in a lot of pain, and that material is just... he was just, like, eviscerating the audience. It was kind of hard to get through because you can tell the guy is dealing with his wife while he's on stage. Yeah. But I really like the fact that he's so furious. I met him a while ago. He was really cool to me, and it meant a lot just because, I remember him from laughing.
Henry, we don't get excited too many times in this show, but we had George Carlin on the air. We were out of our minds that day. It was
He's a classic. I asked him that story. I said, is it true that you were arrested with Lenny Bruce that night, when they were just hassling Lenny and just busting everyone at his shows for whatever they could to make going to see Lenny Bruce kind of not the thing to do? And he said, yeah. And I said, is that how you met him? He said, no, that Lenny hung out with all the young comics and he would let you do your routines in front of him and he would give you tips. So he said Bruce was really generous with his time with all the young guys. But he said he was indeed cuffed with Lenny. Like in that book, Ladies and Gentlemen, Lenny Bruce, they talk about it. And when I met him in MTV a few years ago, and I said, I have to know. And he said, yeah, that happened.
Wow. So how many people know that?
That's not a myth. What a night of your life, to be cuffed with Lenny Bruce. Forget it.
Henry, Andrew Dice Clay, genius?
I I'd never heard him before. And then Rick Rubin, who put out all those records, said, you've never heard Clay? I went, no. And he gave me all his records, like, in one chunk.
Yeah.
And I kind of just powered through all of them in a weekend. And what's that, The Day the Laughter Died? Is that the...
That's my favorite one, yeah. That's Rick Rubin, I think, produced
Why does everyone talk about this CD? Norton has been trying to get me to listen to this for a long time.
Oh, I think that album is amazing.
It's his best one.
Why is it amazing, in your opinion?
Because he's so brutal... And you hear him go in and out of character. He actually, apparently he's a really nice guy, and it's an act. And so every once in a while he'll say something so crass, you can hear his voice change as he laughs at Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah, what's the background on that album again? It was at Dangerfields here in New York.
What happened was I think he was like the biggest comic on the planet at that point. He wanted to just walk into a place unannounced. He walked into Dangerfields right around Christmas time and did like 3 or 4 hours, 2 nights in a row, completely unannounced, and horrified the audience with no prepared material.
And no one was there either, right?
And
30
people were leaving.
Oh, yeah.
And some lady goes to the ladies' room. He starts talking about her. She comes back. Everyone's, oh, man. And you hear people like, this is horrible. He's like, yay. He just tells them where to go.
The guy stands up, you stink. That's my favorite moment on the thing. This guy goes, you stink. You're as funny as a bottle of milk. And him and his wife walk out. That's my favorite comedy moment ever.
It's rough stuff, but I don't know. It's kind of the job of comedy in a way. I mean, that's my favorite record of all of them. But I think I've never really seen the guy perform. I saw one HBO special like a couple of years ago when he was talking about his kids, and he wouldn't light the cigarette when he was on stage because he doesn't smoke anymore. And it seemed a little restrained, but I don't know. I thought the records were fun.
Yeah.
We'll put it this way: anyone who gets offended by it, you're not really getting what the guy's putting out. I don't think he's trying to offend you. After I heard the records, I'm like, people are like up in arms about this. Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, one question? Did you work? I'm a big Ozzy freak, man. Did you write stuff with Ozzy or collaborate with Ozzy?
No, just did some shows with him. I've interviewed him a bunch of times. I don't know, hung out with him a lot. And he's an incredibly wonderful guy. He's like completely honest. He's a good man. I've known him, I don't know, 10 or 11 years or so, and he's just a cool dude who, you know, he loves to perform. That's why he doesn't retire, because he goes home and he just wants to go back out and play again.
Yeah. All right, let me go to Eric in Kansas, and then we'll wrap this up. Eric, go ahead.
Hey, Henry.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to thank you for your for all the great music that you've put out and the great advice that you gave on one of your CDs where you said hold on to your depression because it keeps you grounded and it keeps you're more clear-headed when you're depressed. I just wanted to say that you're just totally awesome.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's...
what do you mean, hold on to your depression?
Well, basically, I would hope that you don't walk around depressed all the time, of course, but so many, you know, unless it's a chronic condition like we have to medicate or jump off a bridge, there's a lot of things to be explored in depression where you get driven to such a point where there's no faking it and there's a lot of reality to be checked where most people pull back. It's a door you can walk in. If it leads to self-destruction, of course, that's no good. But I would, days I wake up depressed, I don't recoil. I just kind of go, okay, let's see how this feels, and I kind of walk through it for a while. Actually learn a lot about myself and things like that. It's like if you're working out and you got like 2 more reps in you, but you do 5, it's those last 3 where you learn, you know, that's the workout.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying you go out and get depressed, but there's things to be learned when you're that messed up.
And you should understand it a little bit too, because it's.
I would rather deal with it than go get drunk.
Right.
You know, that's what I'm saying. I'm not, you know, if someone's so depressed they're going to die, maybe they need to see a doctor. But
no, man, when I get depressed or down, I just kind of ride it out, you know, and I understand it.
And also, you know, there's a lot of humor in there as well.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I mean, there's, you know, and all your great comics are, you know, a lot of them are basket cases, you know, because it's those vicissitudes that make that where you get the funny stuff from the extreme edges, I think.
Yeah, all right.
My girlfriend bought me a down jacket because she said it fit my personality.
That's Jay London.
Yeah,
Harry.
right.
He's on the other side of the spectrum from what you do, and Jay London. And people enjoy him too, though, and there's a place for him in this world as well. And all right, very good, Jay. Thank you, Henry.
Yes, sir.
It's always a pleasure. So, Shock and Awe, the DVD is going to be released February 15th.
Something like that, yeah.
And also, you do the Henry's Film Corner, right?
Yeah, it's a show I have on the Independent Film Channel.
Do you just show your favorite films or something? Or?
Well, we talk about. I bring in, you know, cool guests. We're gonna this month on the show is Daryl Hannah. And I find her interesting just because she made the leap from big screen to independent screen, and she's actually doing really cool, really edgy stuff, like with people like John Sayles.
And she also knows how to take a punch.
Yeah, I guess she still has some glove marks from where Jackson Brown was just warming up in the bullpen.
My God.
But do you think, like, I like Daryl Hannah, but do you think going from big screen to independent is a leap, or it's more like a tumble? It's not like an upward mobility thing.
Well, you know, I asked her, I said, you know, you were such the face, like in the 80s with Splash and all this stuff.
Wall Street.
She said, yeah, and it was like really nice. There was like big paydays. But she said, you didn't get any acting done. And I said, okay. And she says, now I get to act. And I think it's a somewhat luxurious position, or you have a few million in the bank to be able to go make relatively way less money in the independent world. But that being said, you know, she's rocking the Tarantino thing, this Silver City, the John Sayles film she was just in. John Sayles is, you know, actors, you know, break their legs trying to get in his movies. He's a really, you know, high fiber, high calorie guy, and she's great in Silver City. She's like really edgy and completely nails it. And so I just think it's interesting that she's prospering in the independent world, and she's happier because she's getting to act. And so she struck me as a really cool person. I didn't know what to expect, and she was really cool, good interview. But that's kind of where the show is at. We interview people, we talk about kind of edgy and independent films, documentaries, and we leave the big Jennifer Lopez films for like the big stations to talk about.
I don't know, that Jersey Girl though with Jennifer Lopez and Affleck, I think that was a really good one though, because I didn't know what was going to happen at the end.
Henry, we're going to let you go.
Okay.
We would love to maybe get you on the phone after the Siberia trip, man, because I'm sure you'll have a story or two to tell.
Yeah, I sat in the restaurant car with a man I couldn't understand, and I saw a lot of snow. The end. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well,
I'm a very able masturbator, and I'm going to work on refining my technique on this Trans Siberian journey.
Nice. Good luck to you, my friend.
Thank you.
It's Henry Rollins, everyone. Thanks, Henry.
See you guys.
Bye.
There he goes, Henry Rollins.
You could tell from the instant feedback, a lot of people are very, very protective of our little Jimmy.
No, that's why
they lashed out and did not come back with any liking for.
I knew Jimmy could hold his own though. When you went into the whole Richard Pryor thing, that was awesome.
Well, I didn't.
Was all that the real dates and everything?
Of course it was.
Like Rain Man.
That was Rain Man-esque. You're right.
And again, it was my only issue there was not again about Pryor or whatever, but just when I mentioned stand up. It was kind of a, and again, he explained himself. It was just kind of a weird attitude I took. Like, I'm not going to do dog jokes, almost like that's what stand-ups do. Right. Well, wait a minute, man. Come on.
Yeah. Like, well, you don't have to be a bad stand-up.
Yeah. But, I mean, whatever.
It led to a good conversation there about comedy. I didn't mind that at all.
Someone wrote an instant feedback that said, Henry Rollins was playing Pryor records while you were banging cheerleaders. A bunch of comedians.
Jay London, anything?
I've just had a great time here. I'm more of in a catatonic state, but I think that's just where I should be right now.
I don't think Henry appreciated your brand of humor. Guy was detecting a little, he said, you open up with jokes like the one that you told, and you'll be eating tuna casserole at your mother's house.
It wasn't a tuna, it was a casserole.
A casserole?
It wasn't even a tuna casserole, which is a lot better than
maybe where
a
Henry's
casserole.
from, casserole is a very